What is up guys, this is Shady Tech, and today I'm going to have camera comparisons of 3 mid-range smartphones: Realme 6i, Oppo A5 and Redmi Note 9s from Xiaomi. Alright, so let's just dive into it. For the first photos that we're gonna take a look is how well they can track the subjects, and in this case, which is my cat. And I have all 3 of them set on AI mode, and this is how the photos produce. As you can see, Realme 6i and Oppo A5 produce pretty similar real to life colors. My cat, naturally the color is more towards Realme 6i's, and Note 9s produce much more vibrant, much more, I would say, eye-catching colors. But then if you want to go to natural, I think Realme 6i is the one that close to the natural color the most. As for the details of the photos, I would say Note 9s has the most details in all 3 of these photos. Alright, so for the next photos that we're gonna take is the environment, outdoor environments of the photos. 3 of the models produce very good results, I would say. All of them is pretty decent, and the exposures is okay. But then if you look closely, you would say that the Oppo A5 is a little bit overexposed, especially on the cloud area, whereas Realme 6i and Note 9s doesn't overexpose. But the color accuracy and more natural lighting, I would say Note 9s still produce much more color, and the color looks much more, I would say, vibrant and saturated, whereas Realme 6i is a little bit overexposed and the color is just plain a little bit. Overall, I would say 3 of them produce very good results. So the next shots, we're gonna take a look at 2 times digital zoom. As you can clearly see that Realme 6i doesn't quite catch the light it's supposed to. As you can see, it's a little bit underexposed, especially the dark color on the aluminum piece over here. But for Note 9s and Oppo A5, it still keeps the overall exposure very good. But then if the color accuracy and color brightness, I would say Note 9s still produce much better result. The trees, the greenery on the trees there on Note 9s is much more under control, whereas Oppo A5 is a little bit overexposed and the skies is obviously blown out with all the white. But Note 9s still keeps it under control, and you can see some bluish sky over there. So I would say Note 9s still produces the most for 2 times X zoom. Okay, so this is the wide angle shot with the same area that I take here. As you can see, all 3 of them did pretty good jobs actually. But for my experience, I would say Oppo and Realme has a little bit distorted, especially on the corner of the edge photos, whereas Note 9s still maintain that distortion, doesn't distort that much, especially if you can see the lining on the roof over there. You can pretty much tell Note 9s is still pretty straight, whereas Oppo and Realme, it's a little bit distorted, it's a little bit curved. But then for the color itself, all 3 of them produce pretty bright and decent color. There's not a clear winner here, but if you want to be more specific, I would prefer Realme in these particular photos. But then there's no clear winner here, as 3 of them produce pretty good results. Moving on to the next photo, which is indoor lighting. I chose this lighting because of the white background there, and also the light is not that much, and the light source is only on the right side. As you can tell that from these photos, I would say Oppo has much more cooler side to it. As you can see, Oppo has more whitish, cooler side color, whereas Note 9s and Realme produce a little bit more warmer, especially Note 9s. You can see that the color is much more warmer, or you would say yellowish on the wall. My wall is white obviously, but then in this particular photos, Note 9s produce a little bit more warmer color. As for the colors, as you can see, you can tell that Realme 6i produce a little bit brighter and more vibrant color, especially on the flowers there. The left side of flowers, on Note 9s and Oppo A5 is underexposed, but Realme 6i still maintain the colors of the flower. Overall, for these photos, I would say Realme 6i take the cake. This is the same angle with the wide angle shots, as again you can see a little bit of distortions on the lining of the wall on Realme 6i and Oppo A5. Note 9s is not that visible, but you can still see a little bit of distortion there. But as for the color itself, I would say all three of them produce quite similar color. If you want to be specific, I would say Note 9s win this round just because the shadow is not that overwhelming. As you can see, Realme 6i and A5 produce quite a lot of shadows, especially on the left side and bottom left there, whereas Note 9s still maintain all the colors pretty accurately. This is a test of the 2 megapixel macro lens. 2 megapixel is not a lot actually for taking any macro at all, and especially this is indoor with not a lot of light. So but then I want to test it to the max. In this particular photos, I would say Note 9s still produce the most details and clarity. Note 9s still produce the best, and the color is much more warmer again, but then it makes the photos more pop, I would say more pop than Realme and Oppo. Realme 6i also produced quite a lot of details there, but then Oppo A5 suffers a little bit on underexposed, and just the color is much more darker compared to the other two photos. So for macro, I will put my money on Note 9s definitely. This is outdoor night shots, and of course usually for mid-range phone, night shot is not their cup of tea. You can obviously tell Oppo A5 suffers quite a lot in low light photography. It can't even light out the sky that much. And Realme 6i has the most lighting, has the most exposure in it, but then it has also the most noise in it actually. Note 9s, even though it's not as bright as Realme 6i, there's not a lot of noise going on there, and you can still see clearly quite a lot of details here. If you want to say more details without less noise, Note 9s definitely wins over here. And this is without night mode on. Alright, so this is with night mode on. As you can tell, Realme 6i night mode pretty much just brighten the pictures a little bit. But then it doesn't cut down the noise. As you can see there, the noise is much noise in night mode for Realme 6i, even though the color is much brighter here. As for Note 9s, it brightened the pictures a little bit more, and it also softened out a little bit more noise. But then I kind of noticed there's a little bit of strange texture on the rod below there. You can see that the rod is kind of smushed out, smoothened out. It's a little bit strange night mode process over here. As for Oppo, it's still pretty much the same as without the night mode. I don't see any difference at all. It's still really underexposed, still pretty dark, and there's just noise all around. In night mode photography, even though three of them doesn't have a strong suit to it, I would say Note 9s takes the cake for night photography. Right, so moving on to selfie mode. And for this one, it's a front-facing camera, normal mode without any portrait on. As you can tell, Oppo usually produce quite good portrait mode photos. As you can clearly see here, my face is quite fair, even though I think it's a little bit too much fairness and whiteness going on with my face. My face color is, real life color is between Realme 6i and Note 9s. Note 9s, I think it's a little bit too dark, too underexposed, in my opinion. And for this particular model, I think the details on Realme 6i still produce the most details in terms of clarity and details of my face. And my face is not that overexposed or too bright. So for normal mode front camera, Realme 6i win. Okay, so this is portrait mode. Usually portrait mode pretty much just make the background blur or bokeh if you want to call it. As you can tell, the background is pretty blurred, especially on Realme 6i. The fridge is quite blurry. And once again, my skin is the more accurate on Realme 6i, whereas Note 9s is a bit too dark and Oppo A5 is just too bright. My face is not bright and smooth actually. So yeah, once again, Realme 6i wins for front camera portrait mode. So this is the test of 48 megapixel. Since Oppo A5 doesn't have any 48 megapixel available, so this test is only for Realme 6i and Note 9s. Cause I want to find out the white balance again. As you can see, Realme 6i has more to cooler side of the color, whereas Note 9s is much more warmer. And my wall is much to the Realme 6i side of it. Take a look closely at the rectangular red color that I point out there, cause usually 48 megapixel is all about the clarity, the really small details in photos, especially. Okay, so after zooming in, this is the result of that small little details there. You can really tell that Realme 6i produce much clearer, much more sharp image here, and the color is also much more natural to real life color. You can tell the Chinese character is definitely in place, whereas Note 9s 48 megapixel doesn't really show much clarity in this small little detail over here, as it's still a little bit blurred out if you compare to Realme 6i. So 48 megapixel in Realme 6i definitely win. So that's pretty much it, camera comparisons of Oppo A5, Realme 6i and Redmi Note 9s. I hope these videos can help you sort out which camera has the best quality in which area, and I hope you can judge by yourself which one you prefer most. If you have any more doubts or questions, you can comment down below. And this is Shady Tech. Until next video, signing out.